Hello, my name is Amanda Cohen, and today I am presenting classifying and organizing quadrilaterals, which is a total of a 4-day unit. It's a 3-day mini unit with a 1-day final project. A 5th grade classroom, and it's an inclusion math class. The classroom is made up of 25 students, 1 teacher, and 1 special ed teacher, and we have 9 tutors. So the tutors are recent college graduates who are pursuing a year of service and education, and each tutor has a table in which they're assigned 2 to 4 students that they work with pretty much the entire year. So the tutors know the students really well and know how to help them and how to help them choose the activities or the strategies that will best help them learn. The 25 student class has 6 students who receive special education services and 9 students who receive ELL services. As a special education teacher, I also service the students who need ELL support. This unit provides services and accommodations for students with multiple disabilities, including the ones listed below. So this unit is referring to 2 Common Core standards in the 5th grade math curriculum. The first one is understanding that attributes help two-dimensional figures belong to a category and also subcategories. The example that they give is that all rectangles have 4 angles and squares are rectangles, so all squares have 4 right angles. This unit is really getting at the understanding that squares can be rectangles. Things can have 2 names. It's also at the second standard that's listed here is also a 5th grade math Common Core standard in geometry that is classifying 2-dimensional figures on a hierarchy, so based on their attributes. So that means that students should be able to pick out the shapes that fit into certain categories or pick the categories that shapes fit into. So when planning this unit, I used the 3 UDL guidelines, and the first one that I looked at was engagement. The way that I supported students with engagement is that I used choices. Every guided and independent practice activity in this unit, which there are 4 of, has choices. It provides students the ability to feel comfortable and self-regulate themselves. If they're feeling overwhelmed that day, they might pick an activity that is very comfortable with them. And if they're feeling already confident, they might pick a more challenging activity. The tutors, because they know their students so well, are able to help the students pick what is best for them on each day. This will also help them sustain their interest and keep persistent. If a student has chosen what they're doing, then a student can feel more investment in that activity and they will persist longer. And they will also come back for more because they will be more motivated by this assignment and they will feel like they were able to choose the best or the lesser of the evils. That will make them feel like they are getting a way out of a difficult situation or a way to challenge themselves. The other UDL guideline that I looked at was representation. So here in my class, we use self-guided math journals. So some students have written journals like the ones that you see, and some students have an ongoing Google Doc. It just depends on if the student is using voice to text software, or if they're easier at typing or writing, or if they feel more comfortable drawing. It just depends. And some students have both and they just choose which one they want each day. They just have to remember the next day if they need to look back. It gives students the ability to look at their own comprehension and figure out at the end of the lesson what did they comprehend, what do they still have questions about. They're able to respond with words, pictures, or a combination of both, and they can decide how they want to show and perceive the information in their own way. Almost every day, including in this unit, they answer the questions, what did I learn that I want to remember? So that they can think about what they learned and the most important things that they learned and record those things for them. This also gives the teacher and the tutor a window into the student's mind. They can look at these journals and really see what the student knows and what the misconceptions or holes there still are in the student's understanding. In one day, they're going to use their journal as like a note keep so that the activity can continue the next day, but most days they answer that specific question. last UDL guideline that I looked at was action and expression. Here, I really thought about multimodal activities, activities that have lots of different ways of getting to them, using their information. So the students can choose the activity, which we already talked about, and set their goal and then finish the task. This helps them with their executive functioning, and students that have more difficulty with executive functioning can be supported to practice this on a regular basis. Um, the all activities have the ability to be answered orally, written, with pictures. There's lots of different options in how they can provide their information. Because the tutors are with such a small group, it's very often that a tutor can type or write for a student that is having difficulty and needs to do oral, or they can be recorded, or use voice to text software. Additionally, there are lots of different options to change your activity. Activities change quickly, and so some students might be sitting at a table, some students might be sitting in a beanbag, some students might be sitting at the computer chairs, some students might be at the standing desks. There are many different seated positions, and the tool collection is always supported as a part of the movement within the activities. On the first day, I was asking myself, where do I begin? And with geometry, I always think about starting with vocabulary. Geometry is one math concept that can really hold students back if they don't understand the vocabulary. And not even understand the vocabulary, but just recognize it and be quite quick with it like they are with math facts. In previous years, these words were used with students, but they need a refresher and a more detailed advanced definitions in fifth grade. Just as they go through elementary school, the definitions just get more and more advanced for terms in geometry. So, one way to make vocabulary not as intimidating is that we can make it hands-on and visual. So each table will get a bag of quadrilaterals that I created the quadrilaterals, and they will be printed on bright thick paper and cut out and put into little baggies. And they will be challenged to describe them without using math vocabulary. So for example, at the bottom left, you can see that there's a shape there, and we can say that it has four sides. We can say that it has four angles. We can say that the sides look that they're all equal, but we wouldn't say words like rhombus or quadrilateral because we are trying to challenge ourselves to not use math vocabulary. This also really takes away some of the stress at the beginning of the lesson for a student who might be an English language learner or have a hard time with vocabulary. This can make it a little bit easier for them to just get at it with just what they know. Then the tutor will give them the definition or the exact word for all the shapes that were observed and described. This way, then the students can get an introduction. And then while the tutor is doing this, an additional anchor chart. So they will have the shapes on the table, and then on the wall for each tutor, there will be a anchor chart that looks like this. And this students can reference throughout the lesson, and it's a learning tool that I found online. It gives each shape with their attributes and connects it to the previous one. This really helps students see it, hear it, and read it. It gives them three different ways of seeing it. In each, the main part of this lesson is also to just know the distinguishing attribute, and the distinguishing attribute is the part that comes after with. So it's important for tutors to really highlight and teachers to really highlight that part of it. Also, students are encouraged to use a highlighter or a pencil to circle those or highlight those areas. So like in the parallelogram, they would highlight like the arrows pointing the same direction to show that they're both parallel. Both sets are parallel. So then we go on to the guided and independent practice. And on this first day of the mini unit, the guided practice is with a partner and guidance from a tutor. Students can choose a partner from their table or from their table team. Some small groups, like groups of two, have a table team that they can mix up with partners just so they don't work with the same student every day. But the independence practice activity is all alone. Here, the students are given choices of activities. Some of the activity choices overlap between guided and independent practice, but they all involve like a traditional math packet that students can complete if they feel comfortable or challenged and they want to be challenged by that. They can also create a product that shows that they can draw or create or define these shapes using paper and colored pencils, and Google Docs, which has a great drawing tool that they can draw without too much stress, or PowerPoint where they could pull images and define the shapes. Then on day 2, to get a little bit excited and fun, they will start with a game. Games are great ways to review, and since we're building on the work from the day before, this is a great way. I used a program called Socrative. It's a program where teachers can create quizzes and track whole class and student progress on separate skills. Socrative, these are your 4 options as a teacher. You can start a quiz, which is very traditional online, similar to Google Forms. You can do a quick question, which I think of as like a do now, which is like one question that could have multiple answers. And then students have a certain amount of time. I usually give them 3 minutes to fill in all of the information that they can. And then when that 3 minutes is up, each student gets a screen with all of the ideas that other students have thought of so that they can have the brain dump, but also review what other students said. Then there's also an exit ticket, which is like a quiz but shorter and pops up at a certain time on their computer. It's also private, meaning other students can't see it, whereas quick question, the students can see the answers, and graded independently by Socrative. The last one is space race. This is what I chose to use. The important thing about all of these is that when you have like a fill-in answer, a typed answer, the students have to type exactly what you wrote. You can give multiple choices, but it's very important to give a reminder like units have to be used so that students just don't write 3 instead of 3 inches and get the question wrong. Space race looks like on the master screen. I usually put this up on my overhead projector while the students are doing a space race. So a student will go onto the website, put in their code, write their name, and then they will be assigned to a random team. In this example, there are 9 students and there are 9 teams. So each student has their own team. But you can decide how many teams there are. I think you have up to 10. So you can choose that students get teams as big as 8 or 9 people or as small as 1 or 2, depending on what you want for your class. So the students get randomly assigned, and as this is on the overhead and they're answering questions on their computer, they are able to watch their rocket move when they get a question right and not move when they get a question incorrect. They also get instant feedback on the computer, on their own computer, if they got a question right or wrong. This is really fun and really competitive, and my students always love a little competition in lessons. I always give like a tiny prize for the space race, whether it's like can line up first for um, recess, or has a handful of goldfish at snack, or gets first choice at break time activities, just so there's a little bit of motivation rather than just bragging rights, because we try not to have any bragging at all. So if you want to, you can be a student or a teacher, and you can try it out. If you go to the link that's under Be a Student, you'll get to the space race that I created, and you can type in this code. You'll be randomly selected on a team, and you will be able to type in things. Because it's only you doing it at one time, you won't get to see the same space race activity, but you'll get the idea of what a student feels like. Or you can be a teacher and create your own quiz in one of the 4 options. If you go to this website, you can easily sign up with a Gmail account, and it's completely free. So in the same lesson, the next piece of technology, or actually the next activity, which is also a piece of technology that they will use, is called Khan Academy. Khan Academy is an online math resource and some science topics that has videos and games that teachers can assign and watch student progress through. So it's completely free to use, and this is the quadrilateral part of the quadrilateral overview video. It's finding different quadrilaterals and drawing them as it goes. And then this can give students a good background of all the ideas that they just reviewed in Socrative. In the second day, guided and independence practice are both alone. I'm sure there will be some discussion in the small group tables, but tutors can guide during guided practice. It's better if tutors step back a little bit in independent practice and just see what the student can do. There's a lot of activities that students can choose from today, depending on what they think is best for them. They can do flashcards to quiz themselves, they can use a packet, they can play some online games, or they can make their own Socrative or Google Forms, or even create a video. These two great online games that are different than Khan Academy that I thought were really great for students to practice in this lesson. They could do the quadrilateral quest, which has dragging shapes that fit in all the properties given, and then also a yes-no choice in the classifying quadrilateral game. Both of these games mimic the ideas that we've done before, but just show them in another way. So then on day 3, we will go back to COM, but instead of watching the quadrilateral overview video, which you see first, students will watch the quadrilateral properties video. As you can see, this is part of a long list of videos, and the ones that have stars are activities. Part of the same group of activities are from the previous video. The video introduces the organization, and then they will complete the game. The all activities have the star, and the videos have a triangle. So then, after students have seen this one way to organize and done a quick game, students will have the ability to look through and see different ways to organize. They need to understand the organization of quadrilaterals so they can pick when a quadrilateral fits in a category and when it doesn't, but each student might see it in a different way. They need a chance to see it in as many different ways as possible so they can choose the way that best fits them. The lesson provides 7 different representations of the information, so then students can pick and choose 3 that they feel comfortable with and look at those closer. So, the first way is that they watch this video that shows this representation the whole time, but has a song that goes with the category, that goes with it. It's called Know Your Quadrilaterals, and it's a YouTube video. It's great for audio learners, movement learners, and visual learners because it shows all those 3 things, and it has a great rhythm in the song. Next is another video on YouTube. It's called The Art of Problem Solving Classifying Quadrilaterals. And here, this gentleman takes the students through organizing and circling them into groups so that they can see the organization of this visual for organizing quadrilaterals. It's also great because at the end it goes through a review of the different shapes and their properties. If students don't need that, they can feel free to not watch it. But the beginning really shows this man creating the visual and moving the shapes around to organize them, which is a really great way for visual learners who need a little bit more explanation to see how it works. The next ones are all static visuals. This is one that I created. It's great for learners that really like the vocabulary and the verbal aspect of it. It shows this in a very clear way and doesn't have a lot of mess or added things so that it can really be clear for students who need limited clutter. This one is great for visual learners because it gives the words, but it also draws the shape and has different colors. This is also great for students that need a little bit of help with visual organization because the colors really pull the shapes apart. The next one is what I call the question tool. The only problem with this one is it doesn't show as much that a square is a rectangle, but it does show students who need a little bit more guidance how to decide the best label for a particular quadrilateral. It also can give students who need a little bit more support the ability to take a shape and practice with it a few times to become a little bit more comfortable if they're still at that point. The next one is called it's similar to a basic Venn diagram. This one It's very similar to the visual that the gentleman drew in the second video, but it's a little bit more basic so that students who need less visual clutter can really understand it. And it just has the words. It doesn't have the shape pictures. And then the last one is one that I think will be really great for students who need a little bit more guidance, and it's a checklist. And it shows the property on the left and then checks off the 4 quadrilaterals that if it relates to that. It leaves out kites and trapezoids, but I think that's okay because kites and trapezoids are not specifically in these categories. They're kind of in their own sections of quadrilaterals, and that way students can feel a little bit more comfortable with the different properties if those are still hard for them to get at. So after students have gone through these, not quickly, but not taking too, they will start a scavenger hunt. I created this scavenger hunt on Google Forms. They will pick it out for only 3 visuals. I had them pick out 2 that they liked and 1 that they really didn't like, and then they check off the boxes for what they think that visual shows, and then they write about it. They can use their their voice to text software if they need to. They can verbally tell it to a tutor who could type it in, or they could just type it in themselves, but then this way they can explain what they like about each one that they chose. I think this is important because eventually they're going to have to create their own, and this allows them to not only just look at them, but really think about them and forces them to think about why it's a good visual, and that will help them think about how they can make a better one later. So then, at the end of this lesson, as their assessment, they will go through and they will plan for tomorrow. Because on tomorrow they will create their own visual organization of the ones they just looked at. So they will go this in the journal. They can do it on their Google Docs journal or in their written journal so that it's easy to reference the next day. And the tutors and teachers can look at them over after school to decide if students need more help or if students are on the right track and just what level of support they're going to need the next day. So then they will create their final project. They will start by reviewing the plan into the journal and add to it if needed. And tutors can know what a student is planning for and be ready to help them if they know they need to add to it. Then they will choose a tool to do this with. These are some of the tools that we spoke about. Students also often like to choose videos or Animoto, so they can choose that as well. Then before they start, and also at the end, they will review their work. This is the rubric. The 4 areas that we're grading in on this is understanding, creativity, visual appeal, and effort. They will go through this rubric with their tutors to know that they are doing the best job that they can and ready to get their best grade. Then they will go through and grade themselves, and then a tutor and a teacher will also do it to get their final grade. I think the most important part about this is that understanding is a huge part of this, but students who have a lower understanding can really get through with some creativity and visual appeal, and they can also if they need to use a chart that's very similar, they can still show their understanding in a lot of different ways. This is the unit that I created. Thank you so much for watching my project. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment, and I will put the links to all of the visuals and resources that I used at the bottom of the page. Thank you so much. Have a great day.